This is the Still Ballin' Show, where they talk sports, race, and what they're doing now. Here is your host, Jerome the Junkyard Dog Williams.
Hey, this is the Junkyard Dog, Jerome Williams, and we are still ballin'. And my special guest today is none other than Dr. J, Julius the Dr. Erving. How you doing, Doc?
Good, man. You do that good, man. You do that good.
You can tell I listen to a lot of those.
You got the Dave Zinkoff
intro.
intro. Yeah.
Absolutely. I got to know how to intro the Doc.
It's all good, man.
How you doing, Doc?
It's going down, man. I'm fine. I'm in New York, so, you know, I was
geared up,
kind of like
man. You're
born
geared
and
up.
bred or whatever. I'm a Long Islander, so I'm, you know, right back in my old stomping grounds.
In the stomping grounds.
Yeah.
In the stomping grounds.
It's always good to come back.
And it's always good to jump into back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, basketball and the history and what you brought to this game that we all love as fans of the sport is remarkable. And you know, you've been awarded many of the legacy awards throughout the NBA. But give me your perspective. What do you look back and cherish the most out of all these years?
Well, I think you know, a lot of people talk about innovation, you know, being able to exploit the game above the rim and, you know, make, you know, being a little flashy, a little different, acceptable because victories were going along with it. Like, I guess the thought process is, you know, if you get out and, you know, you got 1,001 moves and, you know, you're shaking and baking, you're dunking on people or whatever, but if you lose at the end of the day or whatever, it's like, whew, I mean, that was a good show, but you can't win playing that way.
Can't win.
And I think when I came out of college, you know, I felt like the chains were taken off of my game because I was really restricted by college basketball, and I went down to Rucker Park. And chains came off, you know. The saying up there was, you come up here and play like a bum, then you're a bum forever.
Forever.
So last thing on my mind was being a bum, and, you know, I expanded my game, took it into the pros through the ABA, took it into the NBA, and, you know, when I look at when they, you know, name the top 50 players, they have a poster. It's not a poster. It's kind of like a, you know, archive, and they have me and Pete Maravich next to each other, and I think it's very appropriate because, you know, like he took the game to a different level. You know, ball handling and
Absolutely.
shooting from just inside a half court, showtime. I mean, you know, he was showing to himself, and he didn't garner the victories with his style, but he opened people's eyes to a different way of doing something, doing it, you know. And I think I opened people's eyes to a different way of doing it, which, you know, set the platform for MJ and Vince, Dominique, and you know, Kobe, the other high flyers, you know, in that lineage, and so, you know, so I look back on that and I think of that as a incidental achievement. You know, it's not like I set out with a game plan. It's just that, you know, just hearing what people say and what they thought, you figured that, well, there's something happening there, and there's a responsibility associated with it.
Sure.
You know, to honor it and make sure it gets expressed in the right way. That, okay, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. It's not, you know, I didn't sit down and draw it up as a game plan.
Right.
This was a gift, you know.
It is a gift. It's a gift to take flight. It's not something that's given to everybody.
You're gifted to take flight, and you have to learn how to land.
That's right.
You know, and if you don't land right, you ain't gonna jump that high. You get some crash landings. It's like, nah, man, I'm gonna stay on the ground right now. Yeah.
Now you mentioned, you know, your college game, kind of chains coming off. When you look at the NCAA today, and everything surrounding, sort of like the student athlete. You know, what's your perspective? Because just the other day, HBCUs are looking to potentially pay athletes that play basketball $100,000 a year.
Yeah, I haven't heard about that, so I'm not boned up on it. But you know, in hearing about it, it's kind of shocking. because, I mean, I've always had kind of like a respect for amateur sports and the purity of it, and the fact that, it wasn't, driven by economics for long periods of time, up till '92, when Dream Team went to Barcelona, as opposed to the collegians or the amateurs, playing and representing the United States. Everything changed forever, and suddenly there are no amateur sports anymore. I mean, you look at AAU, or whatever, somebody's making money. Either shoe companies are making money, or the guys, who are the drivers and the force behind. They're pocketing a lot of dough, and with the promise of, well, I'm gonna get your kid a scholarship.
That's right.
And a lot of parents are going for that, even though their kids don't have the talent, and and then the whole ratings game. I mean, I just went through it with my son, or whatever. I mean, he was probably the best player in Georgia who wasn't being recruited.
Wow.
So I went through this whole process the last 3 months with him, and now he's going to Cal Berkeley. So, I'm really happy about that. He's happy about it. They want him, he wants them.
There you go.
So we're good. But, I had to reach out, talk to, people at 10 or 12 different schools, including Georgetown.
Including Georgetown.
You
didn't talk to Patrick Ewing.
Man, I talked to Patrick.
You did?
And And John Thompson was in his office. One of the days we talked, I talked to Patrick about 3 or 4 times.
Oh, okay.
I was telling him, man, my son could help your program.
Right.
But I don't want to get off into it right now because, he kind of played me a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, but.
Come on, Hoyas.
Yeah. So, and we visited the school
Okay.
last September. We actually visited. My son liked the campus, but, he's probably going to be one of those players who, in the next year or the next 2 years, all these people who we contacted, they would be like, man, I could have had him.
That's right.
I had him.
That's right.
I had him. It would
Diamonds
call
in
it.
the rough.
They would call it, man. St. John's, Penn State, UMass, my school.
Your school.
My school.
You called your school?
My school. I called my school. And I was like, y'all ought to take a look at this kid.
See?
And they're like, who is he? I said, well, he's my son.
I don't feel bad now with the Hoya thing.
Yeah, I know, because that's even worse.
That's even worse.
Because that's even worse, man. That's even worse. I was like, my little feelings was hurt.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, you look at.
It's all right.
Yeah, we got it.
Things are happen for a reason.
That's right.
And he's gonna be real happy. He's gonna be real happy at Cal. He's gonna be real happy. He's gonna be real happy there.
Looking at these young players today in the game, who excites you? Who do you like to watch play?
Well, as a team, I like San Antonio, and obviously can't not like Golden State, but San Antonio, they're kind of like my favorite team to watch. So I pull for them, and I like the way Pop gets his guys to respond to him, and
Sure.
and they follow the leader. So he's not afraid to get on the case of the best player.
Right.
And if the best player takes it, everybody got to take it.
Everybody got to take it.
So that's just the protocol. Chris Paul's always been one of my favorite players, and when I was watching basketball after I got out, and Ice was still in, Tiny was still in. So Ice and Tiny used to be like 1-2 in terms of people I would pay to see.
Wow.
Right. So now, Duncan's gone, so I probably would pay to see him. I'll pay to see Kawhi play, and I pay to see Chris Paul play. Not a whole lot, not a whole lot,
percentage
but
guys.
Yeah.
With efficiency there.
They're quality guys, and they know the game. They play the mental game as well as the physical game. They aren't all and everything to everybody or whatever. But what I see and what they bring to the court, I admire. I admire the team players, but crunch time, they have the ability to take it over.
Right.
And you don't want to take over games every night. That's a burden if you have to do that every night, man. But there's times when you facilitate, and you make everybody around you better by how you're playing. And then there's times where you got to step up and be the focal point, and they're looking to you.
Right.
They're looking to you for the leadership. They're looking for you to make the play. So there's a lot of guys who do that in the league, but I just recognize those two right now.
When you look back in time and you take that Rucker Park, young Julius Erving, Dr. J, jump out the gym, who would you want to compete against right now today and say, you know what, I'd take that Doc against this player? That'd be fun to watch. What do you think?
Well, I know I don't want to chase Steph Curry around. It's probably what you don't want to see more than what you don't want to do and what you don't want versus what you want. You got to recognize LeBron James for what he is. I mean, he's a specimen that the league hasn't seen before,
right.
And he's had a long time in which to just disprove the skeptics and prove himself, and the fact that he's the guy. So if
right.
you were going to look at a guy and you want to target and say, yeah, I want a piece of him, but not right now.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, be
right?
careful what you wish for, or whatever. I mean, and he's that guy. Westbrook's determination and Harden's skills, or whatever. I mean, those would be tough matchups for anybody. But all players have personal pride. If you figure you are an elite player, you've been one of the best, you've
That's
been
right.
the best, or whatever. It's like take on all comers.
That's
so
right.
It's not like I think about, because people asked about our '83 team, would our team beat the Warriors, would our team beat the '92 Bulls, what have you. And I'm like, well, that's why you play 7 games, and you have time to figure things out.
Right.
And if you have a true champion, all-time championship team,
Right.
then you would figure it out. You would figure out how to come out on top.
Right.
And that same thing applies to one-on-one basketball. You got to figure it out. If the game is long enough, got to figure out how to at least get mine in.
That's right. That's right.
You might go down, but you're gonna go down, with giving them something to remember you by.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Hey, we're still balling.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be right back with more Dr. J. Back with Still Ballin', JYD, and I got the Doc in the house. And Doc, I wanted to ask you, there's been a lot of conversation in America about race and racism and some of the social issues that have been going on. What's your perspective on everything that you see going on now, and how do you feel about race?
Well, my personal feelings. I mean, I'm a anti-race. I mean, I think that America is the melting pot. Still the best place in the world to live, raise your children. Still the place that has the greatest opportunities afforded to people of all race, creed, color, physical, mental, emotional, happenstance. I think it's still number one in that regard. Now, do we have issues? Yeah, we got issues, from the White House all the way down to the outhouse. Growing up in the 50s and the 60s, my pre-teenage years, it was 1963, when the big move was to get rid of segregation in the country. So my first 13 years of life, the United States was mired in segregation.
Right.
So, I mean, you had white only, colored only, water fountains, bathrooms. In terms of the academic experience, the segregation in the school system in the South. Unfortunately, I grew up in the North, so I would go through the shock of, going down to visit my grandparents and my cousins, and realize that, walking down the street, if you encountered a Caucasian person, you need to cross the street, and you didn't have eye contact. So I'm like, this is kind of crazy, because I grew up in Long Island, and
Right.
Some of my friends, were white and Asian and Spanish, of Hispanic descent, and so in dealing with that, and then getting involved in sports, and seeing some of the haters and some of the racism that was involved in sports.
Right.
Because I played for Salvation Army biddy ball team, and out in Hempstead, and we had 10 white players and 2 black players. Me and my friend Archie Rogers.
Now, how old were you?
11 years old.
Okay, it's biddy ball. I was wondering if
This biddy ball. We were like 11 years old, right?
Gotcha.
So 11, 12, and 13. Those 3 years I played, right? So, so we were a team, and let me just back it up a little bit, right? So we used to play in the park, and the guy who ran the park, a guy named Andrew Haggerty, he was a senior citizen, Irish, Catholic, and kind of cantankerous. So we always came up with nicknames for him,
Okay.
Captain Andy and Haggerty Man and all that kind of stuff, or whatever. But he loved us, man. He just had that unconditional love for the kids in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And one day, one of his friends came by, a guy named Don Ryan, and he said, "I'm looking for a couple more ball players for my team." And we outside in the cold. It's like November. It's cold. We out there playing in the park. We got gloves on, and and Andy identified me and Archie. He said, "Now those 2 guys right there, you should take them."
Yeah.
So we asked the parents, could we go with this guy and to play basketball? And he was vouched for by Andy.
Right.
So we go, and it was kind of like the first time I had played in an indoor gym that didn't have like a 13-foot ceiling.
Wow.
Because the gym in my school, you had to shoot
ceiling.
line drive. You had to shoot line drives, man.
straight.
'Cause if you try to shoot an arc, the ball hit the ceiling and just comes straight down. You know how those gyms are, right? This wasn't even the one with the track around the corner where you just can't shoot from the corner. This is you can't shoot from nowhere.
Nowhere, no angle.
Because
I
I don't know what it was like a storage room that got converted to a gym or whatever. So now we get in there, man. This was like getting into a cathedral,
Right.
and it was run by the Salvation Army. So I became a Salvation Army kid, all the way to the Basketball Hall of Fame. I always had their banner up behind me when I get recognized.
Okay.
Salvation Army. That's who beneficiary in my golf tournament, everything.
Right.
So that's where all that started, but it also was where, I experienced my first racism in the Northeast, because Don took us. We went and played everywhere, right? We had like a 47-game winning streak. We was balling, man. The 10 guys, and we were like, a brotherhood.
11, 12, 13. That's saying
this is
something.
11, yeah, 11, 12, 13,
Yeah.
right? So, but we go some places in Long Island, and we go in New Jersey, and there would always be, that heckler or whatever, or somebody was like, get them black boys off the court, and whatever. And Don wasn't having it. Don was, he was not only our coach. Like, we're 11, he's 19.
Wow.
He's 19
Yeah.
right now. And today, he's 76, 77, and he's the mayor of Hempstead, right? So he's still in the mix.
Still in the
He's
mix.
still dedicated
The mayor of
to
Hempstead.
dedicated to serving people, and and dedicated to us as kids. So he's still in my life. And so anytime somebody would say something, he'd just stand up. He said, "Who said that?" He identified a person. He said, "They got to go or we going." And there was a couple times we had to take our team off the court.
Wow.
We go back in the locker room, somebody come back, apologize, and then we come back out or whatever. But so experiencing that, and at that tender age, just kind of made me have a greater understanding versus a lesser understanding.
Sure.
That it's not everybody. But there's some bad people in the world and who are never going to get it, and a lot of that gets passed on from generation to generation. So
It's a cycle.
So it's a cycle. It definitely is. When I started playing golf, I went to a couple country clubs, and I went to Augusta National on a Monday after the event, and I had been down there from Thursday to Sunday, and I was meeting Jim Gray and his dad to play golf that Monday, and Frank Chikinian, who worked for CBS, had set it up. So I was involved with Coca-Cola then, and I stayed in the Coca-Cola house. So I get my car, drive over, And I get to the gate, and I said, where'd I park my car? I had like a big Cadillac, whatever. And he said, oh, you here to do some loops today? Now what that means, are you here to caddy for somebody today? And do,
Okay. And do some.
I said, no, I'm here to play golf today.
Right.
And so that happened at Augusta and several other places where the person, you know, who you encounter, they just have this mentality, and they just, you know, they see somebody black and they figure, well, you can't be here to play. You must be here to caddy.
That's right.
Or whatever. And similar experiences. So I've learned how to rise above that, teach my children, you know, always be the better person, and don't get overly anxious or excited because, you know, it's not a it's not an assassination of your rules, regulations, values, standards. What it is, it's their problem.
That's right.
It's their problem. It's really not your problem. And if
isn't
you make it your
problem,
problem, if you allow it to be your problem, then it becomes your problem.
Then it's a problem.
So then it really is a problem that needs, you know, to be resolved. Because some people you're just not going to change. Even you can lock them behind bars. When they get out, they're going to be doing the same thing that they got them in.
Yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Yeah. So you said, how do I feel about it? I mean, I have strong emotional feelings about it in terms of, you know, helping the cause. I mean, I always try to help, you know, people who are less fortunate and try to educate people who, you know, are less educated. And, you know, because I think with knowledge, there's power.
That's right. And when you're shooting for peace as a legend, you know, it's always good to have a foundation of that charitable give back that, you know, is dear to your heart.
Yeah.
It seems like
and
at an early
experiences
age.
and having experiences. I mean, you experience it early. And it's like, why would I have to still encounter this all these years later? And, you know, just kind of validates the thought process that, okay, man, it's been passed down, so it hasn't gone. And it probably never will go away.
That's right.
Probably never will go away, but we have to know how to deal with it. You know, when you can deal with it and you can, you know, rise above it and deal with it, you know, with intelligence and consistency, then you're not going to encounter it. Like my whole life as a sports celebrity or whatever would be meaningless if people didn't respect me.
Yeah.
So if it was just a popularity contest, you know, and everybody wants a souvenir, whatever you got on, that would get old real fast.
That gets old.
Or whatever.
Fast.
But if somebody, you know, shows you respect, reverence, and they're good about it,
Right.
or whatever, then, you know, you're a willing partner. Then it's like, okay, I'm glad this is a part of my life.
And you got something.
Yeah.
Man, we're still balling. And I got the doctor in the house. Be right back. Still balling. Dr. J's in the house. And let's talk a little Big Three.
Okay.
Come on. How did they get the doctor involved with Big Three?
They told me you was gonna be involved, man.
Is that what it was? I wasn't even here yet.
I said, Junkyard Dog gonna be there? I'm good.
Oh, man.
It was definitely relationship driven because Ice Cube started calling, and I didn't really know him. I mean, I knew of him, and
Sure.
and he said, check with Ice, check with Clyde. You know, they're in, and so I called Clyde, and you know, Clyde and Ice is my rookie, you know, Clyde is my boy. So you know, we talked about it, and they told me their reasons for believing in it. And also in terms of, you know, if it doesn't work, you know, downside associated with that. And we all kind of said, well, you know, if we're involved, let's make it work. I mean, let's be determined. You know, Ice Cube, multiple conversations with him, and you know, he seemed dead set on and determined, and you know, underwriting, you know, all the economics associated with it, and you know, whether you make money or not, that's not really the key. I think that you put a good product out there, has integrity,
Right.
and that gives it a chance. So I look at, you know, they keep saying we're gonna change the game, reality is we just turning the clock back because all of us have had the 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3 experience in our basketball lives. Because, we usually, when we were young, we didn't have like 9 friends to get together and go play full court basketball. Most of the time,
you can scrounge and give it 3.
You can get 3. You can get 2 of your boys, and your other guy can get 2 of his boys.
That's
and whether you know each other or not, it's you can mold something and create something because there's an energy associated with that competition. And 3-on-3 was it. 3-on-3, 2-on-2 was it. 1-on-1 was it.
Hoop it up back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So to make it a television event, to make it a live audience event, to tie some other stuff around it from the entertainment business, and then the curiosity seeker. You're gonna get the curiosity seeker out there tomorrow, watch you play, and turn back the clock in terms of, your followers and your fans who saw you play and like your style, and they like, the energy that you brought. You're the impact guy. And whatever, so you can see these guys who aren't done yet. Might be done with 5-on-5, full court, the whole 9 yards of the more established game, and where the big economics are. But at this level, if probably a year, like I retired at age 37, so I probably had a window of 7-8 years where I could play 3-on-3 basketball.
You also innovated
and
the 1-on-1 game.
Still put on a show,
You and Kareem.
Yeah, we did the 1-on-1 and had Rick Barry and Connie and Tiny, and we had a crew doing that. But 3-on-3 is more than that because 1-on-1 works for a small audience, but I think 3-on-3 can work for a big audience, and that's what we have. And so my commitment is genuine, and I'm here.
You got the team captain from the class of '96. My draft.
Yeah.
AI's draft. Jermaine O'Neal.
Yeah, that's true. And Jermaine came out of high school. Alan was a one-and-done guy. 2-and-done. I think
he played
sophomore
2 years.
Sophomore year. Right. So, we got names, and I like my team. I was thinking about you being on my team, man. Clyde and I was thinking alike, So he like swooped you up.
Swooped me up. Hey, the dog pound was barking.
Yeah. But I think we won't talk about the teams, because they got to play. We got to see what happens.
But you represent Tri-State.
Oh yeah, Tri-State.
Coach and GM, president of the Tri-State.
Owner.
We
owners, the owner. We all own our franchises.
That's right.
So our franchises have 6 owners, and the format is what you used to see when you played 3-on-3 basketball, and obviously a 4-point shot and 3-point shot are going to be impactful in this game. I think 3-point line is going to be probably the determining factor in terms of wins and losses, because. When we used to play ball, we used to always, play the 15 by 1s or 30 with 2s. Now you got 3s, and you're going 3s and 4s, and you're going to 60. So it could happen fast. I mean, we can have some games that are over in 20 minutes.
Quick.
And then others might drag on for, an hour and 15 minutes.
Depends on who catches fire.
Yeah. But either way, it's going to be different.
That's right.
So Ice Cube is correct in terms of saying we're changing the game, in that the games are going to be different from one game to the next. Mm-hmm. So there will be changes,
sure.
And but I still think it's it's a throwback situation.
Wow, we're still balling, and I thank you, Doc, for coming on the show.
Oh yeah,
always a pleasure.
Happy to be here, man. Also, always happy to see you, your whole crew.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
We here on the Still Ballin' Show want to thank all of our listeners and supporters. Be sure to check out more episodes on cbnsportsmedia.com and follow us on Instagram at cbn_news and at JunkyardDogJW. Until then, we will still be ballin'.